home alone.
Joanne Chesimard, or Assata Shakur, as she renamed herself, is on the FBI's 10 most wanted list and has been since the 1970s. And she is the #1 wanted fugitive in New Jersey.
Oh, she is now in Cuba. She sought asylum there. She has agreed to an exclusive television interview with Ralph Penza, and Ralph is here with more on that for us. Ralph?
All right, Chuck, Sue, she is a heroine to some. As a fighter for black rights, she is a villain to others who believe she hides her crimes behind revolutionary rhetoric. Back in the 1970s, Assata Shakur was known as the soul of the self-styled Black Liberation Army, an armed group implicated in the killings of several police officers. In New Jersey, Governor Whitman has posted a $50,000 reward for her capture. Meet her now in Cuba. As she walks through Havana streets, she is just another shopper. She passes almost unnoticed by Cubans. Her name is Assata Shakur. In the United States, she is known by the police and FBI as Joanne Chesimard, one of the nation's most wanted fugitives. Wanted for what police describe as the cold-blooded execution of a New Jersey state trooper back in the 70s. She denies it and says of the state cops,
they want to just kill me. They want to see me dead.
Chesimard was convicted in the killing of Trooper Werner Foster and the wounding of another trooper in a furious shootout on the New Jersey Turnpike in East Brunswick. That's where Chesimard was wounded, and one of two men in the car with her was killed. The other later captured. Police say that after Trooper Forrester was shot down, his own gun was ripped from his holster and 2 bullets were fired into his brain. After her capture in that deadly shootout, she was sentenced to life in prison. In 1979, with the help of 3 armed men, she broke out of the women's prison in Clinton, New Jersey.
She made her break this afternoon from the prison in Clinton, New Jersey, and lawmen once called her the soul of the Black Liberation Army.
Chesimard went underground and then surfaced in the 1980s in Cuba under Fidel Castro's protection. Now, at 50 and a grandmother, she agreed to talk with me in Havana. Chesimard, or Assata Shakur, insisted she had killed no one and was railroaded by an all-white jury and by what she called racist New Jersey state troopers. Did you shoot Werner Foster?
No, I did not. I was shot with my arms in the air, then shot.
25 years, the roadway area has changed somewhat, but this is the spot where the shooting occurred. Joanne Chesimard was in the front seat on the passenger side. The driver of the car and Trooper Forrester were in the back of the car. It was after midnight, and shots rang out.
Harper, who was the other police that was at the scene,
other trooper,
started to shoot. And, you know, after that, everything is like foggy. It was horrible. It was like a prolonged version of hell. You know, I felt like, you know, everything was moving around. My chest started to explode. My head started to explode. And the next thing I knew, you know, they were coming by me and saying, is she dead yet? Is she dead yet? And I was later taken to a hospital, and I was beaten. I was tortured.
I think that, you know, as so happens so often with the criminal element, they have a tendency to turn things around, and they become the victim. We got to remember that, #1, there's a trooper who is dead.
And why did Assata Shakur escape from prison using hostages as a shield instead of appealing her case to higher courts?
I never received justice. And I escaped, A, because I was afraid for my life, and B, because I knew that I would never receive justice.
Tomorrow, Assata Shakur's life in Havana and the determination by the New Jersey State Police to one day recapture her. And we'll hear from Rose Forrester, the widow of the trooper who was killed.
You just can't imagine what she did to us.
Claim that she was left on the ground to die. Colonel Williams told me she and her Confederate actually sped away in their car 5 miles down the turnpike before she was finally captured, and that it was Trooper Forrester who was left on the ground to die. The Clinton, New Jersey prison from which Chesimard escaped.
Chesimard has been one of the nation's most wanted fugitives for the murder of a New Jersey state trooper.
And yet she is admired by some who see her as a fighter for racial justice. She is protected in Cuba by Fidel Castro's government. And tonight, Ralph Penza concludes his exclusive interview with Joanne Chesimard. Ralph?
All right, Chuck and Sue. You're going to see 2 messages tonight to Joanne Chesimard. One from the widow of the New Jersey state trooper Chesimard was convicted of killing some 20 years ago, a murder Chesimard denies. The other message is from the New Jersey State Police. And in my exclusive interview with her, Chesimard expressed her fears of what the troopers just might do.
I'm afraid that they might assassinate me. They might try to kidnap me.
Joanne Chesimard, who calls herself Assata Shakur, talking to me in Havana, Cuba, talking of her fears that the New Jersey State Police will somehow find a way to get to her.
You know, these people will stop at nothing.
In 1979, Shakur escaped from a New Jersey prison where she was serving life for the murder of State Trooper Werner Forrester. Police said he was executed with his own gun.
It was such an unfair trial, by an all-white jury.
Joanne Chesimard is the #1 fugitive for the New Jersey State Police.
The head of the state police intently watched a tape of my interview with the convicted cop killer as she claimed state troopers tortured her in the hospital.
You know, they stick their hands in the wounds. Does it hurt here? Does it hurt here?
It's been almost 25 years, and I'm sure that she's replayed this and turned it around to her benefit many, many times.
Shakur portrayed herself as a fighter for racial justice by what she called armed struggle if necessary.
People have the right to free themselves from oppression by whatever means they deem possible.
She is not a heroine. She's a murderer.
Colonel Williams called Shakur's fears of police assassination ludicrous, but then he gave me this startling comment.
We would do everything we could to get her off the island of Cuba, and if that includes kidnapping, we would do it.
Colonel Williams told me the police determination to recapture Chesimard is fired by the memory of Trooper Forrester on the memorial wall.
She killed my husband.
Rose Forrester, the trooper's widow. Their son was just 3.5 years old when her husband was gunned down.
My son lost his dad. He grew up without a dad. You know, he never saw his son going to school. To for a soccer game, taking him fishing. And then he got married 1.5 years ago. He never saw him getting married. And I think my son really missed to have a dad.
I say to her that I am totally sorry that her husband was killed. I did not kill him.
She is sorry? I doubt it that she is sorry. No. I think they know that what they were doing that night.
Anyone who suffers a loss is in great pain. And I hope that she understands my pain as well.
She don't know what suffering is.
As for Colonel Williams' statement to me that he was prepared to kidnap Joanne Chesimard from Cuba, later in the interview he said that only lawful actions would be taken, but he didn't elaborate. The top state police official added that even now, almost 2 decades after her prison escape, he has a detective working full-time on the Chesimard case. Williams told me, and I'm quoting, "Chesimard better be looking over her shoulder all the time." And I'm going to have more on this story on Weekend Today in New York, and that is Sunday, beginning at 6 a.m.
Folks, thanks, Rob.
Well, thank you. A dramatic river rescue.
Chesimard case. Williams told me, and I'm quoting, "Chesimard better..." She's a villain to others who believe she hides her crimes behind revolutionary rhetoric. Back in the 1970s, Joanne Chesimard was known as the soul of the self-styled Black Liberation Army, an armed group implicated in the killings of several police officers. In New Jersey, Governor Whitman has posted a $50,000 reward for her capture. Meet her now in Cuba. As she walks through Havana streets, she is just another shopper. She passes almost unnoticed by Cubans. Her name is Assata Shakur. In the United States, she is known by the police and FBI as Joanne Chesimard, one of the nation's most wanted fugitives.